This is Darius Stanton to the Peace in the Morning Show.
Good morning, everybody.
No doubt. What's up, Delegate Darrell Barnes?
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Man, I tell you, I'm all pumped up and ready to go, and I got to be pumped up and ready to go because we got a lot going on, brother.
Man, it is so much going on in the state of Maryland here, right? And then right here in Prince George's County.
I mean, it's happening all over the place. You know, we're dealing with issues that I'm 47 years old.
Wow.
And at 19 years old, I was working for the county executive, and they did an article on me in the Baltimore Sun. I got put in this position called youth coordinator, and the whole article was really focused on the fact that I was 19, and I was pushing an anti-drug agenda, but we were labeled young and extinct. So my generation is known as Generation X.
Okay.
But the X that they put on black males, because at that time, D.C. was the murder capital, was called the murder capital of the world, and was averaging like 400 homicides a year.
Right.
That was back in 1989.
Right.
This is now 2017, and we are still dealing with the issues of violence. You know, we are still dealing with the issues of multiple homicides. Baltimore City, Annapolis, Maryland, Prince George's County, District of Columbia, Chicago, Oakland, Detroit, you know, Louisiana. I mean, all around the country, we are still dealing with this issue of black males killing black males, primarily in high drug areas. Of course, as we talked about before, in areas where there's a plethora of alcohol and liquor stores. Right. You know, and we back at the table again addressing it. Back to rallies, talked to George Hodge of Protect the Prodigy, Community Kinship Coalition over in Sea Pleasant, where Kevin Durant's from. Right. They're doing an event on August the 5th, a 3-on-3 Stop the Violence rally. We're going to have George come in and talk about it. We're going to push that out. You know, right now, the city, I mean, the county, we're going to take a break right now. We'll be right back with some music. We got some stuff going on. There's just that much happening. Major story coming right back to you. What's going on? Testing 1, 2. There we go. So, Darryl, we're gonna break to the.
Yeah, that's right. Let's do it.
Live, www.elifemedia.net. This is Darius Stanton with Delegate Darrell Barnes. Peace of the morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
If we ever need, you know, it's a song. If we ever needed the Lord before, we sure do need him now.
We need him right now because there's so much going on, so many so many killings.
So many killings. I mean, no matter how it's happening, who's doing it, you know, we got to get away from who's doing the killing and stop the killing.
You know, and it is very frustrating. That I was reading in the Washington Post in Northeast Washington, D.C., a one-year-old got shot because he was around some knuckleheads outside shooting craps. Come on, man.
Exactly. 1 year old.
Who does that?
Come on, man.
I mean, really.
At what point do we make that shift? At what point do we decide enough is enough?
It really saddens my heart to hear these stories. And it's constant. There's so much going on. And at what point do we as a community, at what point does we as men, when do we come together?
Hey, look, we've got a major challenge right now with regard to the violence. And the issue and the fact I got a call this morning when I was working out, it did my heart good. I want to shout out to Brother Alan Griffin. He called me this morning because we had a young man that's participating in our Summer Leadership Academy in Annapolis. He called me this morning to say, Darius, man, I got a young brother up here at camp. They paid for them to go to camp. This is the Kappas fraternity. Paid for the young man to go to camp along with some other brothers. And he said, man, I got to leave. I got to go to the Leadership Academy. I got to go to basketball league this Thursday. I got to go. The two things that made me feel good was, one, that we have a program that young people feel safe and they committed to being a part of. That's right. Number one.
Right.
But the thing that really did my heart good was another black man from another organization. Cap was calling me name and high to find out how we can help this brother and his family, his situation.
Yeah.
Because that's what we need. We got to come together.
Absolutely.
We got to put this, I'm with this fraternity, I'm with this organization, I'm with this, I'm black, I'm white. We are, white people are dying of heroin overdoses faster than any other drug has taken people out in America to date.
Yeah.
Black people are going to jail and dying from gunshot wounds and gunshots and the use of firearms, at a consistent rate. So we can take all of that, excuse my expression, BS, and put that aside and really deal with the fact that our families, our children, the mere fabric of who we are is at stake.
But, my thing is, I always wondered is, in the summertime, there's history has shown that there's always a spike in crime in the summertime.
Right.
But what I really would love to see is, why is there a spike in crime? If someone could call into the show this morning or tell us why in the summertime is there always a spike in crime, and then what can we as a community do to curb that spike in crime? Well,
we're going to have somebody call in, as a matter of fact. This young lady is the former delegate here in Prince George's County. She ran for Attorney General in the state of Maryland. She's definitely been on the front lines. She was the former chairman of the Legislative Black Caucus and now running for state's attorney here in Prince George's County.
She sounds like a bad woman.
She is a very serious woman. Our sister Aisha Brave Boy.
Oh, Lord.
Yes, sir. You preceded her seat, am I correct?
That's correct.
And so she's going to call in this morning and address these issues of violence. So, we look forward to talking with her this morning. She'll probably be calling in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Also, we talked with Brother George Hodge of Community Kinship. Jonathan Medlock, District Commissioner Jonathan Medlock may be calling us this morning. We are on a rallying cry this morning on the Peace in the Morning show to create a love revolution. We're not going to just keep talking about what we can't do. What can we do?
That's right.
What are we doing?
That's right.
And how do we stop this? How do we start loving each other versus this shooting?
Right.
And yesterday, we had two powerful young brothers from Double L. These two young brothers are rappers here in the District of Columbia. And this is what they said on the air. We have to, they live in Northeast D.C. Right. They said, we have to teach ourselves how to go to sleep over the sirens.
Wow. And that's sad.
They said, now, if you lived in the inner city anywhere, you know this to be a fact. But the issue is we're living in this and we've accepted it.
Yeah.
And then we expect children to go to school and function.
And perform.
At a high level.
Yeah.
You give children all the resources in the world in the classroom, give them the most certified teachers, give them the computer labs, all of the buildings, top flight and technology. But if at night you have to train yourself how to sleep over repeated sirens and gunshots that precipitate the sirens.
Yeah.
At what point in our society do we say that's enough?
Yeah. You know, I you know, seem like year after year after year after year, we have these conversations. I don't think people are fed up.
No.
I don't think people are outraged. And in some cases, I think people don't care. You know, because, you know, I mean, we're living in this repetitive and repeated cycle of doing the same thing over and over and over again. So I don't think people are saying, you know, hey, it's fine by me. My child didn't get shot today. It's fine by me. I don't hear the sirens. So, hey, I don't care. And then those that are hearing the sirens and those that are hearing the gunshots, they're not snitching because of whatever code that is. They're not snitching. They're not rallying around their community and saying, you know what? Let's drive these drug dealers out of our community. Let's plant some flowers and sweep up the streets. Let's make this a place that we feel good about and comfortable about coming in late at night or during the day. They're not fed up enough. I just don't see it.
Right.
You know, and folks like us, we're the one that's fired up. You know, we're the one that's saying enough is enough. But we can only do so much.
That's right.
You know, we're on the air talking to everybody that's listening to our voice. And we're saying we're fired up, but we need help. We can't do it by ourselves.
Right.
You know, we've been trying to do it by ourselves.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
at some point, you know, people got to stand up. You know, people have to take a stand and say, look, enough is enough. We're going to go out into the communities. We're going to stand on corners. We're going to go to schools. We're going to pay for children to go to summer camp. You know, we're going to donate money. If you can't be there, if you're not, whatever the case may be, you know, we're going to talk about what can you do to curb this violence? What can you do to stop this violence? And, you know, a common theme that continues to come up, and in some cases we don't even set people up or tell them to say this when they come on the show. We ask the question, what do we need to do? Where does it start? And 9 times out of 10, the young brothers on the show yesterday said it again. It starts at home. You know, and what's in the home? The reason why we pushing Peace in the Morning is because we want to promote positive content in your media space. The reason why eLife Media exists is to promote life into media, green life. You know, we want to create green things, good for you, things that are going to help your mind grow. So if you riding in the car and you listen to whatever the last hot song is from some whack MC, yes, I said whack MC, because if you see all the killing that's going on and you still talking about killing and shooting and popping pills, then you are whack. As simple as that. It's, you know, call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
You know, and at some point we have to turn the channel. We have to call PGC. We have to call KYS. We have to call whatever. Call eLife Media. If we playing something that's whack and it's contradictory, call the station. 240-455-5934. You know, and if they playing something that's good and it's positive and it's cranking and it's pumping like we pump here on eLife Media, then call and say that you like it. But support what's good and kick out what's not good, because that's the only way, not the only, but that's one of the key ways to take a stand is to do it with your pocketbook.
You know, one of the things that you know, I would love for our viewing audience to take away is that one of the things that I think, what's his name? Speaker Man, that I will never forget when he called into the show. He said that we must learn to love ourselves before we can love someone else. And I think that is a very powerful statement to make, and one that has resonated with me to say to our community that in order for us to effectively make change, we have to love ourselves first.
Right.
And I think, and oftentimes we do not love ourselves enough to say, you know what, enough is enough, and I do want to make change, and I am going to start by starting from within.
Right.
Before I can start going on the outside.
That's right.
And I think that's what we have to look at as a community. We have to start loving ourselves. We have to start doing from within, and we have to set the example.
That's right.
Because right now, all eyes are on us.
That's right.
Right? So how do we set the example to say that we are going to start it first, and then we want others to follow in our footsteps? Right? That's why we bring those young people on there. Not that we want their voices to be heard, but we're setting the example that says that we as men, as leaders, we want to set the example to say this is how it should be done.
Right.
And now we want you guys to follow, and more importantly, we want you to take the mantle and lead.
Right.
And I think that's where we are right now, people. We want you all to lead and set the example that says we're not going to just keep reading this newspaper and saying that, oh, there was another killing. Oh, there was another kid that got shot. Oh, it's in that neighborhood. No. We as politicians need to say, how do we come together and start looking at creating policy that really makes a difference versus policy that sounds good?
That's right. And speaking of policy that sounds good, one of the things that's on the table right now in Baltimore City is increasing the sentencing for gun use, for gun violations. Going back to the criminalization. We've tried that.
Yeah.
We've seen that has not worked. We see young people go into a system and do not come out rehabilitated. They don't come out habilitated, for those who have never been habilitated in the first place, because in order for you to be rehabilitated, you have had first to be habilitated.
That's right.
Which is the root word. And so we have to, if we want to change something, we want to change policies of what's taking place in our state and local prisons. Mm-hmm. In the federal prison level, at least there is some form of education, certifications, training. You can come out and get, with valid skills. Some people running businesses from jail. They can't have the money. The money's going to a family member or somebody else, but they're at least in a position to establish themselves. If you're in a state penitentiary, what are you doing every day that's helping you to get to the next level?
That's right.
We don't talk about the abuse and the violence that takes place. We don't talk, you saw the case in Baltimore City when BGF had the leader had 10 or 12 of the women guards, he was knocking them off. But what about the 19, 20, 21-year-old boys that's coming into the jail that's being sexually assaulted? What about the grown men that's got to come back to their families after they've been raped? What about the men that's laying in bed because their anus is split open because they've been raped in jail? We're not addressing it.
Right.
We got to address the issues that people do not want to talk about in order for us to get to the next level. And at what point, as you said, do we change policy and stop singing the song that everybody is used to singing, and we start singing a song that's going to make sense and that's going to really change? For example, making sure that our community centers and any sports program that's funded by any volunteer community organization, any government organization, should have a mandatory reading component. Mm-hmm. It should have a mandatory reading component. It's nowhere in the world you should have a program with 50 or 100 boys on a football field and they don't have an hour or 2 hour study hall component tied to the program. And look, but let me just say this. Why do we have to wait till funding to come in place before the football coaches say, I'm going to make sure that the children reading and writing? That's not my job. I'm not dealing with, I'm here to coach football. I'm not here to educate them. Wrong. Time out. Yes, you are. Because if they can't read and they can't write, football ain't going to help them 5 years down the road.
That's right.
They can't even get into college if they can't read and write. They can't even play ball in high school if they're not able to read and write, unless they're in special education, and they actually have a special education waiver in D.C. public schools, at least they did, that allows you to play football if you don't have a 2.0 because you're in special education. Is that acceptable? How much do we have to lower the standards? So, I threw government funding out there, but funding shouldn't be the carrot. Our children's lives and their strength and ability to be coherent and think on their own and be critical thinkers is what should be on the forefront. Not who's going to give you money, how much money can you get for your program based on this and based on that. It should be rooted in education. No matter what program we're doing, if it doesn't have a leadership component, if it doesn't have some form of education component, it shouldn't exist. I've been in the field for 25 years, 27 years. So I'm speaking as a professional. I'm not speaking as somebody sitting on the sideline. I'm telling you right now, if we have programs out here that are not educating our young people and all they're doing is playing sports, you got your children in the wrong program.
Well, I'm just fired up this morning, man, because I hope Aisha Brayboy is able to call in before I have to leave, because there's a special meeting over at Prince George's Community College with our CEO, Kevin Maxwell, so we can talk about some of these educational issues that's plaguing our communities as well. But I just believe everybody that's watching us this morning, we need to create a movement. And we here at the Peace in the Morning Show need your ideas, we need your suggestions, and we need you guys to give us a call or Facebook us and let us know your ideas on what we can do to curb some of these challenges.
Look like this, sister.
Someone's just calling in now because I think it's important.
Welcome to the Peace of the Morning Show.
Hello, this is Aisha Brayboy.
Aisha Brayboy, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Thank you so much for calling in.
My pleasure.
We first of all, we all pumped up and ready to go this morning, Aisha. And we really appreciate you taking your time out to give us a call. We're addressing a major issue that's going on right now, and that's the violence. Aisha, can you turn your volume down on your phone for us or take it off speaker? That would help, if possible.
Okay. Is this better?
That's much better. Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem at all. But we just, we fired up this morning, so you got to excuse us for being so passionate. I'm not going to ask you to forgive us because we need passion. And you've been passionate yourself, as the former delegate. The now Delegate Barnes is in that same seat that you sat. You were the former chair of the Maryland State Black Caucus, Legislative Black Caucus. Also ran a phenomenal campaign for Attorney General statewide, and represented Prince George's County very well, and now running for state's attorney here in Prince George's County. Thank you so much for the work that you do on behalf of the citizens, not only when you're in office, but before you got to office, and now even, during the time that you weren't in office, and now running, again for a state's attorney. Thank you for your work and your passion and what you've done to help our community.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And one of the things that I have been so blessed to be able to do, and I know that Daryl Barnes has been, very supportive of our program that's run by the Community Public Awareness Council, where I serve as their general counsel. And I've done so for about 13 years now. We are a community-based juvenile diversionary program. We're the largest one in Prince George's County. And this year we crossed the 4,000 mark. So we've diverted over 4,000 young people out of the criminal justice system. And we know that is so critically important, because if a child gets a juvenile record and is in the system and is stigmatized as being, quote unquote, in the system or bad or problem child, they're more likely to engage in criminal activity as adults. So we want to get rid of that stigma. We want to give them an opportunity to make better choices, and also the tools that both they and their parents need in order to be more successful. And so I really want to thank Daryl Barnes for his support for our program, and coming to also help mentor the young people who are part of that. And we have to all do our part to make our community safer.
Aisha, I've said that I am a fan of the Aisha Brayboy team, and I truly believe that once in office, you're going to do some amazing things. But kind of give us a snapshot, if you will, on as you see some of these challenges that we're being faced with right now, with some of these senseless killings. Is there a program in which you will like to see or being put in place once you're in office?
Yeah, I think a lot of what we are experiencing is a symptoms of trauma that's in our community. We have a lot of unspoken trauma, including mental and behavioral health issues. We have a lot of people who have been abused, both physically and sexually, as children, and as they grow up, these same individuals are more likely to engage in criminal behavior themselves or continue to be victims of this type of criminality. And so we have to, when we say we need to break the cycle, we need to have more support systems in our community. We have to advocate for more behavioral and mental health facilities. We need inpatient treatment. We don't really have inpatient opportunities except on an acute basis at our hospital, like Prince George's Hospital System. We need to have more therapists, counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists who are valued in our communities and are given the resources they need to help not just young people, but all people in our communities, because we do have people who have diagnosed mental and behavioral health issues who are not getting the support they need. We have people who go undiagnosed because of, I guess a lot of times they don't understand it or they're running away from it, but it continues to be a problem. If you look at our jails, both on the juvenile side and on the adult side, what you'll find is that more than half, in many cases, of the people who are incarcerated have some diagnosable mental or behavioral health issue. So while we need to get criminals off the street and we can't afford to have an unsafe county, if we really want to do something about safety and not just about penalizing people once they've committed a crime, which we've got to do too, but if we're concerned about safety, we have to put those tools in place that can help people make better decisions. And as state's attorney, I'm not going to be the top, behavioral health expert in the county, but what I know is that we need them at the table. We need to provide them resources, and I can be an advocate for mental and behavioral health resources in our county.
You bring up a lot of good points.
Excellent points.
That I know once you're in office, I want to make sure that my office works closely with you. And I've always said, seriously and jokingly, that I want to be the Marion Barry of Prince George's County when it comes to job creation. Because a lot of these kids are telling me, Delegate Barnes, I don't want to be the stick-up kid. I don't want to do disruptive things. I need a job.
Sure.
So we have to find ways in which that we look for more opportunities for our young people to do more productive things versus disruptive things. We have to look at things that saying, because everybody is not going to go to parks and recs and play basketball for 8, 12 hours a day. We have to find for more opportunities. And then from a legislative standpoint, I agree with you 200%. We have to look at policy that makes sense. We have to look at funding that we can bring back forth from the state of Maryland to help with some of those areas, like providing more beds and treatment centers here in Prince George's County, Maryland. And I look forward to working very closely with you. I look forward to building that relationship because I believe that, if we could get the right stakeholders at the table that truly want to roll up their sleeve and make a difference, then I think we can make a difference within our community.
I'm 100% there with you, Daryl. I actually plan to reach out to your office later today because we do want to host a forum in the community on August 10th. We're going to be in District Heights, and we were going to see if you would be one of our partners. So because this issue of trauma and how that affects the safety in our community is really critical. We need to start talking about that right now. And we need to begin, looking at the next legislative session and things that folks like you who are very progressive on these issues can do to help put some policies in place that hopefully will help people like me, should I become the next state's attorney, push an agenda about true safety and not just penalizing people. Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to, if folks are arrested, we'll charge them, we'll prosecute them, but that means that they've already committed a crime. We're trying to get to them before they commit the crime.
Absolutely.
And folks like you could be great partners in that.
Well, I appreciate it. Unfortunately, I have to leave. The Prince George's County delegation is meeting with our CEO, our superintendent, Dr. Kevin Maxwell this morning
Yes.
over at Prince George's Community College. So for those that are listening, I don't want to say leave the show, but make your way over to Prince George's Community College this morning, because we have a lot of other issues or crises that we need to deal with, and that is our education system right here in the county, that I think also the lack of education for some of our individuals are contributing to the crime rate that we're seeing right now. Thank you guys so much.
Delegate, I hope you can go live from that, because some of us can't make it there, but we certainly be very interested in hearing the dialogue from that.
I would definitely do my best to see if we can put that live as well.
No doubt. We'll see if we can send somebody from the Peace of the Morning Show over there with Delegate Barnes to make that happen.
Wonderful.
So Aisha, before you leave, and I really appreciate it, thank you, Delegate Barnes. Before you leave, you touched on two key components. One was mental health treatment in our communities, and the other was the issues centered around how we transition from the lock 'em up approach and really creating asset-based programs and initiatives that really shift how we do business. Delegate Barnes just talked about education. In the elementary school, middle school, you've got still a large number of young people who are being suspended, who are being expelled from school. They have created alternative schools and what they call in-school suspension in some cases, alternative programs. But we definitely have to shift the way that we create policy in the state of Maryland, and really become a leader in doing things that are asset-based versus deficit. So, what are some of the things that you think that, we can do? Again, I think people just need to hear it as much as possible to shift that tide from the lock 'em up, because all we do is create recidivism. All we do is create budgets that drain us through the penal system, and people really don't look at those numbers, but those numbers are huge in what it costs to incarcerate folks versus what it costs us to treat them or put programs in place up front, as you mentioned, in the community.
Yes. Well, and I think we also have to look at how we value the lives of people in our community. I think we have to look at each of these young people who are coming up, who are being raised up in our county, as innovators. People, when we lose them to the, let's say, criminality, we're not only losing them in terms of locking them up, but we are also losing whatever their brain power, their ingenuity. We're losing that as well.
That emotional intelligence,
creating
all of that intellectual
such
capital.
Amazing advances in technology, but the young people in our community, if they're locked up, they don't have that ability, to become the next inventor or the next thought leader or anything like that. So I think that we have to understand that when we lose our children, we lose as a society, because these aren't people who we're just helping. These are people who we, in the future, can maybe help advance us. And so we start looking at them in that way. I think the programs that we put in place for them, how we treat them, how we view them, will begin to shift. And so if I knew that I was losing the next Albert Einstein, let's say, to criminality, would I think differently about that person? Does that make sense to you?
Oh my God!
And
you're singing
we
my music.
to have more avenues to stimulate the minds of our young people at an early age. Yes, sports is a great way to do it, but also having technology clubs in our communities that are just not in the schools, but are community-based, where they can young inventors can flex their intellectual muscles and their brain muscles and start being more creative in that way, and think about business and how do we help young people take their ideas and take that into the business realm. I mean, folks like you can help with that, but we need to fund it. We need to value those types of programs so that the same kid who might get caught up in criminal activity because it's exciting, it's interesting, there's a way to, quote unquote, make money for them, if they're matched up with someone like you and your program, or a program that pushes entrepreneurship and invention and that type of thing, those kids will look at that as a path to making money and to getting out of their current situation and all that. But we've got to want to invest in that. And that's the type of financial investment that our county needs to commit to, the state needs to commit to, quite frankly. I mean, we will spend money. So it's not as if we don't have the money. It's just what we spend it on. And we typically spend money on public safety, to lock people up and to arrest people and to prosecute them. Do we need that in our society? Absolutely, because there are people who are taking advantage of people. There are people who are wreaking havoc in our communities, and we can't have that. But most people are not doing that. And so what can we do for the majority of the people, and for those young people who could make a choice to go one way or another? How do we help them make the best choice? Well, we help them make the best choice by saying we value you as a person, we value your life, we value your intellect, and we are going to, as a community, incentivize you to stay on the straight and narrow and to become a productive member of society. So we're going to invest in technology, we're going to invest in entrepreneurship, we're going to invest in, mentorship programs. These are the things that are important to us because we value you. That's the message we need to send as a community.
Your platform and the ideas that you bring to the table are so refreshing. I almost want you to run for president instead of attorney general, but actually in order for us to break the cycle, we really need someone with those types of thoughts and ideas in the seat that deals with the criminal justice system. Because you talked about, first and foremost, the intellectual capital that we lose in America. Let me just as a quick support to what you said. African Americans are descendants of Africa. Math, science, archaeology, all of those things are rooted. The origin of those things came from African thought leaders. These are principles. These are disciplines and that are used throughout the world, and it was created by black people in Africa. And so, fast forward to 2017, when we incarcerate juveniles and then we incarcerate adults, and we are pulling that intellectual capital off of the market.
That's right.
And we're losing that that intellectual capital, and then we stymie it by having a situation like in Baltimore City, and I talk about it all the time on the show, where we have over 350 liquor licenses over the legal limit, which then perpetuates alcohol fetal syndrome, which has the same characteristics and symptoms as lead poisoning, which Baltimore City has always had a problem with. And you look at violence in the midst of all of those communities, you have liquor stores, high lead poisoning, and these are direct environmental factors that are impacting the origin, the eggs and the sperm of the parents that are bringing these alcohol addicted babies into society. And again, you're almost putting out that intellectual flame from Jump Street. And then after you do that, and the seed makes it through that, still is born, still has the ability to be bright in spite of all of that, and then we incarcerate it and lock all of that intellectual potential away. So that is damaging our country as a whole.
Absolutely.
And you talk about technology and the fact that we have the ability to be able to do all of the things that we currently do. The computer that was initiated out of IBM the personal computer was developed, by a black man. Atari, one of the original computer games. I played the one.
I remember Atari. Thank you for letting me show my age. No, I'm fine.
No doubt about it. Also created by a black man. And so I'm saying, to your point, that we're locking up that intellectual capital. We're losing, our greatest resource, which is the human mind.
Absolutely.
And then treating it, by using, instead of locking folks up, using and channeling those resources to mental health and putting more funding into mental health so that we deal with these issues that children are dealing with. We had 2 young people on the show yesterday, 2 teenagers growing up in the District of Columbia. And this goes to another point that you raised, that we've been able to start getting people to listen to, but we definitely need to have a major platform. I encourage you to use your will to encourage the Black Caucus, the Speaker, Mike Bush, as well as the President, Mike Miller, and on both sides of the House to address post-traumatic stress. Because our young people, there were 2 young brothers on the show yesterday who talked about the fact that they wake up. They don't wake up. They have to train themselves to go to sleep to sirens and gunshots. Yeah. They have to train. So we accept that now because it's been like that for so long in our society. But that's really, what we're working to do, and the platform we're pushing on the Peace in the Morning show, and where I speak all over the country, is retooling leadership. And part of retooling leadership is to help us change the dynamic of accepting what's unacceptable. It is unacceptable to be less than 20 miles from the White House and you can't sleep in your bed because you hear sirens all night and you have to train yourself how to sleep through sirens, let alone the shootings, let alone the family members or friends that you've lost through homicide or some form of gunshot or some other type of trauma, and nobody shows up at your door, nobody shows up at your school and talks to you and works you through that.
Absolutely, and you're right. And I can tell you, I work at a children's hospital right now, and I can tell you that science is really interesting, and we've made a lot of advancements in science over the last, just the last decade. And one of the things we've been able to do, our researchers, is to really look into the human brain and how it develops. And what is now known is that if a young person is exposed to a lot of violence, a lot of trauma, that in some cases, not every case, but in some cases, their brain actually is delayed in development, which means their reactions to different stimulus is different. So you may see some children who react very violently or have loud outbursts or whatever. It's because they have not been able to have their brain develop to a place where they can control their emotions. And so it's not that these are bad children. It's not that they're lost causes. It's just that they need additional stimulus. I'm talking about drugs. I'm talking about positive reinforcement in their lives in order to help them mature and help their brains mature. And so what you're talking about, like that guidance, that counseling, like how do we help people work through some of the traumatic experiences that they have in their lives, that's important not only for their emotional well-being, but also for their brain development and functioning. So we have to be smart. We just have to be smart. We can't just say, like, lock them up and throw away the key. I mean, we can say that, but we've been saying that all along, and guess what? We still have violence in our community. So we understand that that's not the end-all, be-all. We need to really dig deep. We need to do the hard work. We need to have people who are elected representing us who are willing to do the research and to do the work. There are a lot of things that I learned because I read a lot, I study a lot, and I try to educate myself, because if I'm going to represent someone, I need to be prepared. Just like a lawyer going to court. Like, I'm not, you don't want to with a lawyer who doesn't know your case, who can't articulate an argument for you that's hitting on all points. And so it's similar to someone who's representing you. You want that person to value learning, to value education, to value preparation. And so, when you have elected officials like Gerald Barnes and others who put in the work who are like, you know what, we can't just be where we are now. This isn't good enough. We need to grow. We need to do better by the people who we represent. Well, it takes time. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort on our part to be able to represent people fully. But when we put in that work, the results are much better. And so I love Darryl Barnes. He's a great delegate, but he's a great delegate because he does the work for the people. He reads, he researches, he talks to people. I think that I'm similar to that. I'm not saying I'm his mentor or anything, but, you know, he did kind of take my place in the General Assembly, and I'm very happy that he did. But
call us right back.
But that's what you should expect from your elected officials. I think that's kind of what I bring to the table. But we've got to talk and work with people like you who are also putting in the work so that we can create a better policy for our community that actually helps improve public safety and grows our young people to a point where we are comfortable saying that now you are going to be in a position to lead us. You lead us now.
That's
right.
We've
given you the tools that you need. We made sure that you had all of the advantages that maybe we didn't have. Now it's your turn to lead, and that's what you want from a.
Well, you know, we've got to take a call. We got an international call coming in, but Aisha, we so much appreciate running for state's attorney, Aisha Braveboy here in Prince George's County. Definitely a leader. We want you to come into the studio, and we're going to have you here as soon as possible. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today.
And keep pushing those smart ideas. Good morning. Welcome to the Peace in the Morning Show. This is Darius Stanton. Who's calling on the line? Is this our queen to the world?
Yes, this is Queen to the World. Peace and love. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, queen to the world. It's so good to have you back. Your viewing and listening audience have missed you on the show. We definitely going to let them know that you're here right now. You know, we are bubbling over brown sugar to hear the queen to the world on the Peace in the Morning Show right here at www.elifemedia.net. How you doing this morning, Mom?
Thank you so much. I'm doing wonderful, and I'm so proud of everybody there, keeping it going, fulfilling your destiny and keeping the community well aware of the activities that are going on, the things that are extremely positive, and those things that we need to make more positive. I want to address something that is happening in the area of violence and just remind people that parents, take your children off of sugar, take your children off of fast foods, and reduce the things that are affecting their brain and nervous system that is in the food that will cause them to be more rambunctious, more negative, and put them on more fruits and vegetables and organic foods that would cause them to be more resolved, more calm, and less negative, less violent.
You know, that's such a powerful statement. You know, we're talking about the violence that's taking place in the region and all over the world, and what parents can do. What are the solutions? You know, what are the solutions to stop this? Because, you know, the violence, when you talk about these gunshots and homicides that are taking place primarily through the use of guns, there are multiple victims. There's the shooter who has had, like you said, some form of mental state that will put them in a position to do something to intentionally take someone else's life.
To hurt somebody else.
To hurt somebody else. What happens in their brain to make them come to that point? And then once they take that action, and that bullet leaves that chamber and goes into somebody else's body, and now that person is also a victim. And the parents and the family, and if they have children, you know, all of those people are now victims to that society.
I want to intervene and just say it's always been the food. Anytime a particular government or situation wants to take over an area, they change what they feed the people. The places that are very calm and living beautifully are now in uproar. Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Syria, beautiful homes, Turkey, are now torn apart. Baltimore was a beautiful city. Look at Baltimore now. D.C., Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York, Chicago, Central City, Los Angeles, Mexico, Arizona, Salt Lake City, Utah, Tulsa, Oklahoma. These places, look at the amount of fast foods in these areas. Look at the foods that are on the shelf. In addition to the alcohol and the drugs and cigarettes, there's also chemical food. And now GMO. It's like putting the tips to the iceberg. So families have to wake up and recognize that feeding your children these foods over a long period of time kills certain enzymes in the body and activates DNA in an opposite direction. It affects the neurological center. So they need more fruits and vegetables, organic food. Let's get them off of food from canned sodas, and sodas with lots of sugar. Get them off of those kind of products, and you will see a change. This is how you get a diagnosis of ADD, attention deficit disorder. All these things are a result of excessive chemicals, sugars, and acids in the food. And the Nobel Peace Prize winners have already concluded and proved that excessive acid, free radicals cause cancer. Where's the acid coming from? It's coming from heavy meats, heavy foods with acid in it. We have to change what we eat in order to have a surviving nation, a surviving world. We have to stop using plastic because plastic is killing. Plastic is made of diesel engine fuel. All these things are necessary changes. They're essential changes to our communities, and we can start with community organizations, with meetings. Instead of keep putting plastic bottles of water out, use glass. Yes, it may be more expensive, but it's also healthier, and in the long run, it is a solution to a major problem. Get the hot dogs and hamburgers and pork chops and ribs off the table and start feeding children healthy foods, families healthy foods, bone and pork necks. And we can start, and we can change all these things if we really use our head and work together. But it starts with us.
You know, you said a mouthful there. You're talking about mouthfuls, being able to be disciplined. And we talked with just now with former state delegate and now running for state's attorney, Aisha Braveboy, about mental health and how we changed the way we've been doing business. And one of the ways that we changed the way that we've been doing business and no longer allow the unacceptable to be acceptable is to change how we eat. You know, one of the things that we can definitely do in our families and our households is to fast and to put the plate down and put that food down just so we can start to discipline our bodies, our minds, to doing without, so that we don't get caught up in the advertising and the things that draw us into eating foods that do not help our bodies, that do not produce living organisms in the body, so that you're building your brain cells, that you're building your blood cells, that you're building your heart tissue and making the heart stronger, but things that are working in reverse. And so as we shift and we're about to close out on the show, tell us some of the things, some of the foods that we can eat, some of the green things, some of the juices, some of the things that we can put in our body to start to reverse that process of eating those things that we've eaten for so long. What can help us shift the body to a more healthy alkaline state?
And in less than 3 minutes, organic blueberries and blackberries are antioxidants. They help to clean the body and build the immune system. You need turmeric and cinnamon daily in drinks. Parents need to make smoothies instead of sodas. Almond milk, organic silk milk, or coconut milk with fruits. Fruits go together. Berries with berries, pineapple with apple, mango, banana, just about goes with anything. Start making smoothies with avocado and drinks. Use dates and raisins and figs for the sweetener versus sugar. Get the children off of sugar. Look at sugar like cocaine or heroin. That's just how bad it is. If we can just start there, alkalining the water, not putting foods in the microwave. These are major changes that we can start to make and see immediate changes in ourselves, in the mentalities and the behaviors of ourselves and our children. Just changing these things and stop buying all the Fritos and Cheetos and Doritos. All those things are filled with chemicals, just like putting a child in a lab as an experiment. You wouldn't want somebody to physically do that, but you are responsible for doing that every time you buy these chemical foods and feed them. Thank you for having me. I love you all.
Thank you so much, Queen. God bless you.
Morocco's beautiful. The weather's beautiful. The people are beautiful. We're doing beautiful and powerful things.
That's right. We appreciate you. Love you so much. And in your honor, we'll definitely be playing some of your songs at our next show tomorrow, live right here at Peace in the Morning. As we wrap up with the Peace in the Morning show, we had a very powerful show this morning talking about what we can do to change the tide of violence. Some of the key things as I close out with the peaceful moment, I want to share them with you. We are in a position right now where we are leading our communities in a path that is either constructive or destructive. Number one, instead of increasing sentences for guns and putting children and adults in jails that are not habilitating or rehabilitating them, what good is it? Removing them from the street for a short period of time for them to become incubated in a system of crime inside the prison, rape and physical abuse inside the prison, mental and intellectual starvation inside the prison. What good is that? We need programs that promote mental health. We need more mental health funding and less funding for jails. We need more mental health in our community, more mental health outreach programs. Secondly, the young brothers on the show yesterday talked about the fact that they are dealing with, they wake up to sirens. They have to train themselves how to go to sleep to sirens. That's unacceptable. Right here in the District of Columbia, down the street from the White House, it's unacceptable. We must create programs that address post-traumatic stress. Our children and our families are growing up in environments where gunshots and sirens are part of their daily routine. That is not healthy, that is not acceptable, and they're going to school like that, and we're expecting them to perform, and when they don't perform, because they've been in these environments and situations, and remember, children are born into situations, and they're born into families. They're not responsible for who they're born to and where they're born. So it's up to us to make sure that our environments are indicative of a place where you should be raising children, which is not one where they have to train themselves to go to sleep over sirens in the United States of America, this great country that we live in. Number three, we must create programs that divert children from going into the penal system. The state of Maryland and the Department of Juvenile Services over the last 10 years has done a tremendous job in shifting children into alternative placement, alternative sentencing. So instead of sending them to the juvenile detention center, or instead of locking them up, they created daily evening programs. It's also happening in the District of Columbia. There's a major trend that the Casey Foundation has pushed, a number of other major foundations have pushed to stop the incarceration of folks and start treating them for the behaviors and the challenges that they have. And so we need alternative sentencing. We need policy that shifts us away from incarceration. Please reach out to the mayor in Baltimore City, reach out to the governor, all of the delegates around the state, and tell them to create more programming and more funding in the area of treatment and alternative sentencing. And last, or next to last, we also must remember sugar is a killer. Sugar is just as bad and is just as addictive, if not more, than crack cocaine. Crack cocaine and sugar are equally, or sugar is more addictive than crack. So why are we feeding our children still in 2017 Kool-Aid? Why are we buying them sodas? Why are we having events where we've got sodas on the table, sodas to give out to our parents and families, and yet we want to stop killing in our communities? Children do not have the reasoning, the mindset. Their minds are still being developed. At 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, they need things that are going to help the body, help the mind. Sugar is a killer. Stop accepting it because my mother did it, my father did it, my grandmother did it. We must make the unacceptable unacceptable and make the acceptable acceptable and stop doing the reverse. Last but not least, number 5, we need you to take a stand and lead. Lead. Do not follow ourselves down the path that we've been going through. Take a stand for young people. Take a stand for our communities. There's a meeting going on right now in Prince George's County with the CEO, Mr. Maxwell, regarding the problems and challenges that are taking place in the school system. Instead of just meeting, after the meeting, follow up. Get on the phone, go to the polls, do what you have to do to make sure you're involved, do your part to make sure our communities stay healthy and they stay free. This is Darius A. Stanton with the Peaceful Moment on the Peace in the Morning show for Queen Ayasudebe, Delegate Darrell Barnes, and Lady Karan right here on elifemedia.net. Until tomorrow, when it's Funky Friday and we have Love More in the studio, and you know how we do on Funky Friday. We're still going to be addressing violence. We'll have Dr. Bruce Purnell, a brother working throughout the nation on reducing violence in our communities, on the front line, helping guns, drugs, gang members come to the table and deal with beefs here in the District of Columbia and throughout Maryland. Dr. Bruce Purnell will be our guest and one of his local hip-hop artists on Funky Friday here on the Peace in the Morning show. Thank you for joining. Peace in the morning.
All you need is faith.
Curtis Mayfield.
To hear the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket. You just thank the Lord. So people get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors of boredom. There's hope for all among those who love the most. For the hopeless sinner who would hurt all mankind just to save his own. Believe me now, have pity on those whose chances grow thinner. For there's no hiding place against the kingdom's throne. You know there's no hiding place. There's no hiding place. So people get ready. There's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage. You just get on. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket. You just thank the Lord.
Oh, man, I appreciate that.
People get ready. People get ready now. Thank you. Are you enjoying yourselves out there?
Hey, man, I appreciate that, man. No doubt. That's what we're working on, getting better and better, man.